Trish Suzuki-Blinstrup, and I'm with Teamsters 856, and we represent the classified employees. So we also just want to go over our co-sponsors with us. We have IFPTE, Local 21, Justin. Teamsters Local 315, they represent the bus drivers. West Contra Costa Administrators Association. West Contra Costa Adult School United Association. Richmond Police Officers Association, and the United Professional Firefighters of Contra Costa County.
So for tonight, a couple of housekeeping issues. Your bathrooms are to your right-hand side, my left-hand side. If you have any questions of our candidates, we have cards over here. Jesus, please raise your hand. Jesus, teacher from Lincoln. You can go over to him and fill out a card, and then at the end, you're going to be able to ask some questions of our candidates. We are recording tonight, as you can see over here in the front, so we ask you to please be as quiet as possible. Please do not applaud after answers, because it'll affect our video, and please try not to make any sounds, yells, even if you don't like an answer. I know it's hard, but try not to make any sounds, because we'll be recording and we're going to be posting it on our website as well as our social media. For the candidates, you have the questions in front of you. Tonight you're going to get 1 minute to answer the open-ended questions, which are the first 9 questions, and then we're going to move into the yes or no portion of the night. For the audience, because the candidates have already heard this from me, the open-ended questions, there are 9 questions the labor unions have already created in the past, and each candidate is going to get a chance to answer them. We're going to cut them right at 1 minute. And we have our timekeepers in the front, our Executive Director of UTR, Emma Erbach, and then Justin from Local 21. For candidates, they're going to give you a 30-second warning and then time. And then I have the lucky job, and Trish as well, to cut you off, and we will, because we have 11 of you and 2 hours. So for the first part, it's going to be open-ended. For the second piece, the candidates are going to be asked 18 questions where the only thing they can do is answer yes or no. Excuse me, Mr. Kerr, I'm going to borrow this. They're going to get to say just yes or no to the question, no in between. It's part of governance, as we like to say. Ms. Cranber and the incumbents will know. So for that part, we're going to go question. We're going to give you 10 seconds to think through your answer, and then we're going to ask you to show us your answer all at the same time, so you can't cheat. It's okay to laugh, candidates. So tonight is obviously the first forum of the season. We're going to see many more, but we're very excited for tonight. And I'll pass it, actually, let me introduce the candidates who we're here to see. So first we have Anthony Carroll. Please raise your hand so you can see you. Then we have Carlos Taboada, El Consuelo Lara, Madeline Cronenberg, Michael Gonzalez, Patricio Duhan, then Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis. Then we have Tiffany Grimsley, Valerie Cuevas, and Vanessa Calloway. For the questions, each one is going to start a different question. So for this first question, Anthony's going to be starting us. Then he's going to pass it to to Carlos, and then we're going to move forward from that. And then Carlos is going to start the second question.
Okay, and actually for the first question, we are going to give you 2 minutes. It's because you're going to please take 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for school board. Carlos? Or not Carlos, sorry, Anthony.
Hello, my name is Anthony Caro, and I am the Executive Director of Citizens Power Network. So the past 3 years I've been working here in the district with students, with parents, with teachers, and I've been community organizing. So what that means is I listen to the people, I hear their needs, and I try to act on these needs. So most of what I do is in policy, and that is exactly why I want to run for school board, because I believe that a lot of our issues can fundamentally be solved at the school board level through policy. So my background is I come from public schools. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I've always been involved with the Teamsters. I've always been involved with UTLA down there. I've attended many rallies, and I come from a very strong union background. So part of the reason why I'm running is because I want to keep the unions here strong. I want to keep our teachers strong, because I believe that when we have strong teachers, we're going to have a strong education for our students. And yeah, that's who I am. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Taboada. Let me start by telling you something about myself. I have been a teacher and counselor in the West Contra Costa Unified School District for 21 years. 8 of those years I was a member of the executive board of our union, United Teachers of Richmond. And I strongly believe that a quality public education for all is a fundamental human right. But public education is a shared responsibility, a responsibility shared by teachers, staff, parents, elected officials, and community members. We are all responsible for ensuring that all our children receive the preparation they need to succeed in life and work in today's information economy. I know the strengths and weaknesses of our district. I know that we have a wealth of highly qualified and talented teachers and a competent and dedicated staff. And we also have students that are eager to learn. But we face many challenges that must be overcome. One of the most important challenges that we face is the existing differences in academic achievement among students of different socioeconomic levels and ethnicities. That can no longer be tolerated. And for that, I propose the creation of full-service community schools centered around not dictates from above, but centered around local control, teacher autonomy, and community empowerment. Work, study, and play should be the guiding principles of our schools. Critical thinking, creativity, and learning should be the tools to develop in our students a love for learning, grounded on hands-on, practical, creative activities. I believe that giving all our students access to academic, health, and social services, and I don't see why quality vocational training and skills development should be divorced from preparing our children for college. Thank you very much.
I have to stand up, sorry. My name is Consuelo Lara, and I'm retired from the district, where I taught for since 1998, I believe, and I've taught a total of 38 years. Presently I'm retired, and I'm working with some at-risk students at Richmond High. I've also helped to form the Future Teacher Club for those students who are aspiring to be teachers, and hopefully they come back and teach. So I'm very involved in the community. I've retired here. I also do senior peer counseling through the county health services. And I just want to say, you know, this is an amazing place to be. It's an amazing community, and our students are resilient and strong and creative, and I would like to see them thrive in a way that I know that they can. It feels like we're in dark times, you know, and I feel like we need to really fight. We have to be fighters, fight for our students, fight for public education, and these are things that I feel very strongly about. And I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Madeline Cronenberg, and I'm currently serving on the West Contra Costa School Board. I've been on the board since 2006. Before that, actually up until 2010, I was a teacher in Hayward Unified School District, so for 30 years. I won the award for Teacher of the Year, a state award at one point. So I'm committed to the classroom. The adult school teachers that I taught, middle school students that I taught, were very similar. The Hayward community is very similar to the West Contra Costa school community, where I've sent my children to school. I have 5 children, 3 of them are teachers. I absolutely believe in the importance of teaching to our society, and the importance of taking care of our children, all our children. And that's why I ran the first time. I ran because I thought it was important to have a voice from the classroom on the school board. And I've provided that for all these years. I look at my decisions as the important role they take in forming our children and our children's future. I appreciate all of the support I've gotten all the years until now. I believe the district is going in a very good direction right now, and I hope that we can continue the energy that we've developed and the direction that we're in right now. Thank you very much.
My name is Michael Gonzalez. I've been happily married to the same woman for over 3 decades, and I still enjoy her. I have 4 children and 1 grandson, and they all have attended or completed their K-12 education in this district. I've been a classroom teacher, a school principal, and most recently a educational consultant assigned to address issues of underperformance in public school systems throughout the state of California while living here in Richmond for the last, since 1999. What we need to do, and the reason why I'm running for school board, is we have to close the achievement gap and raise achievement for all students. My desire to do that started the first day of kindergarten when I was removed from my kindergarten class and sent to an adjustment group separated from the public school system because I couldn't draw my hand. That kind of inequity, that kind of insensitivity has to be addressed not only through policy, but also through protocols that are aligned to that. My entire interest is creating a velocity of instruction that enables us to do much better for all students, welcome all parents, and welcome all students into the classroom.
Good evening. My name is Patricio Duhan. First, I want to take a moment to thank the organizers and thank all of you for showing up here this evening and showing your support and interest in the election. I am running for school board because I believe that we need to have thriving schools in a thriving community where families are moving into the district because of the schools rather than choosing to live elsewhere. I'm a parent with 2 children in the local schools, in public schools, a soon to be starting 6th grade and soon to be starting 1st grade. They're excited about school, and I want that excitement for all students. I am a former teacher, and I've worked in high Title I, high poverty schools prior to moving on in my career, focusing on education, focusing on best practices across the nation. I currently work with school superintendents and staff in many districts across the country that are facing the similar issues at West Contra Costa, and many have figured out and solved how to turn that around. It can be done here. It needs focus. We need to focus and prioritize families and students and student outcomes, and we need to have evidence-based support and practices for all people in the district. That is school teachers, administrative staff and leaders, and everyone that is in the district. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to your support.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis. I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm an immigrant, I'm a citizen, I'm a wife, and this is my 5th year in the district. I've learned a lot as a kindergarten teacher this past few years. I love working in this district. I think there's so much potential. There's a lot of, problems like low performance, high teacher turnover, but I think there's a lot of hope too. I come from Ensenada, Baja California, Mexico, and when I came here, I had teachers that supported me. When I needed language supports, I had that. When I needed after-school care, I had that. I was raised in California since I was 10, so I've had a lot of great support. I think we need to give that to our Black students, to our Latino students, to our Native American students. I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do that. I don't think that all hope is lost, and I think that we need to elect people who have knowledge about how classrooms work, what we need from the ground up, not just from the top-bottom approaches. So that's why I'm here tonight, and I have a daughter who's going to be starting school in 2 years, so I want this to be, a great district for her to go to. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Closer? Okay. Hi, my name is Tiffany Grimsley. I'm a Bay Area native. I grew up in El Cerrito in Richmond. I'm a product of the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I attended Madera Elementary School, Adams Middle School, and El Cerrito High School. I've made my home here in the West Contra Costa area. I have 3 children, each of whom have matriculated within the West Contra Costa Unified School District. My youngest son is just entering middle school this year, going into 6th grade, and my middle child just graduated from Hercules High School, is going off to UC Santa Cruz, very excited about that. And my daughter went to Contra Costa Community College and then off to Cal Poly Pomona, where she just received her degree in political science. So yay! Good job, teachers and parents. I'm sure you could identify with my glee. I love being a part of this district community. I have volunteered as a parent volunteer and one of those badge people you see all around all the time. I've worked for the district and as a yard supervisor, as an instructional aide. I've been a member of the school site committee at Lupine Hills Elementary School. So I've really invested in the district and in the interest of all of our children. I truly believe that all children can achieve. I think we just need to give them the tools and the education to do that. I believe that we can do that, and I believe we can do that as a community. We can't leave it all up to the teachers. We can't leave it all up to the administrators. We all must work together for the success of all of our children. I spent many of my work years working at UC Berkeley in admissions for the Haas School of Business. And in that job, I did a lot of outreach and recruitment. And in that time of doing outreach and recruitment...
Time's up.
Okay. I'll talk more later.
We're going to have like 20 of these. You'll have plenty of time to talk later, I promise. Hi, everybody. My name is Val Cuevas. I am currently serving as the board president for West Contra Costa Unified. And it's a privilege to be here. Thank you to our host tonight, and thank you to all the candidates. It's great to meet you, and I'm sure we'll be spending a lot of time together. 4 years ago, I ran for office because, like many of the folks before me, they've expressed a number of the same concerns that I had. The question was, how are we going to support all our students to make sure they reach their highest potential? And how are we going to do it in a way that was compassionate and supportive and inviting for all our stakeholders, from our teachers to our school staff to our parents, including our students, to be part of that journey? 4 years ago, I got elected, and thus began the education of Valerie Cuevas. It's been a crazy journey, but I have been so blessed to have the privilege to serve you and work with you on the toughest issues. Because while I learned back then that I knew what might be the issues that were important, now I have the experience when it comes to the day-to-day decisions that need to be made to actually close those gaps, to actually support our teachers in ways that are meaningful, to actually get resources to schools, so that local school communities can make the decisions that are close to them on how they want to spend their dollars to support kids. And along the way, I've made sure that we bring our community along, that we open up the process, that folks know what we're doing and why. And so I invite you to come with me on this journey for one last time. I want to be on your board for 4 more years. And I hope that my leadership has been demonstrated over the last 4 years, and you'll be my best advocates to convince me that this is the right thing to do. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Calloway. I'm a Richmond native. Grew up here in Richmond, attended Steege Elementary, Perry's Elementary, Cortez, and Coronado, and I graduated from Kennedy High School. I'm my mother's eldest child, and Richmond is my heart. And I've been working with youth and young adults for about 20 years now in various capacities. I've worked at Perry's, I've worked at Coronado. I worked here at Lavagna de Jean for 6 years as after-school coordinator here. And I believe that all our kids need us, not just teachers, not just principal, but they need us, and our families need us to help us build relationships. I believe it starts with relationship building. We can't lead from behind the scene. We have to have hands-on and all boots on the ground. And so I'm running because I remember my teachers like Mr. McKelvey and Miss Miller that took an interest and invested in me as a student, and they didn't approach it as a cookie cut, but they took the time to understand what I needed as a student in their classroom, and to the best of their ability, they made that happen. And so as a candidate and a future board member, I would like to make that happen for each and every one of our students, so they can know that the sky's is the limit, and it's not just a quote that we say, it actually can be their reality. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Could you please pass the microphone down to Mr. Tawada, who's going to start us on the next question. For this question and the ones moving forward, you only have 1 minute, okay? What do you believe is the most pressing problem facing this district? What is your plan to address this problem? Oh, excuse me, before you start, one housekeeping issue that we forgot to mention. We have translation here to our right-hand side, so if there's anybody that needs translation, you're welcome to come and grab some headphones, and our wonderful translator will translate for you tonight. Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Tawada. Lo hubiera dicho en español, gracias. Traducción, si alguien no se me fue. Si a alguien le gustaría traducción, por favor vengan aquí a mi derecha. Gracias. Mr. Tawada, whenever you're ready. Thank you. Mr. Tawada, could you, didn't want to interrupt you, but thank you, Mr. Park, for saying something. There we go.
Okay, can I start again?
Could we restart the time for Mr. Tawada?
Okay.
And if, for the audience members, if you could please not shout, we'd appreciate it because we're recording. Go ahead, Mr. Tawada.
Okay, so let me start again. I think there are many problems, depends on really who you talk to. They range from charter schools to the achievement gap to the low percentage of high school graduates that are college ready. But the question calls for the most pressing problem, and forgive me if I wax philosophical, but I think the most pressing problem really is indifference. Indifference to these issues that I mentioned. Indifference from those that say, well, I'm not going to school, so I don't care, or my children are not going to school, or my children are doing well. I think, like I said earlier, that public education, educating our children, is a concern of all parents, community, elected officials, teachers. And again, the most pressing problem is to turn a blind eye to the many issues that we encounter day to day. Thank you.
Okay. I think I agree we have a lot of different problems. I would say as a parent, thinking about my child going to school, I would be very concerned about the safety. Safe schools, safe facilities, and also safe against bullying and harassment. And I do remember when I was at Helms at the old school, we did a community mapping project, and we asked and listened to the students and asked them, where do you feel safe? And it was overwhelming that the place they felt most safe is in the classroom. And I wonder these days if that would be still the case. I think we have some good practices out there. I would identify those and make sure that everybody knows that we do have these good practices for keeping our students safe, and that we expand those and support those. Thank you.
I think, you hear me? I think our most pressing problem as a school district is the dramatic turnover we've had in teachers. We have had so many teachers leave that we haven't been able to build a real core of experienced teachers. Our teachers stay 2 or 3 years, but we don't have the 4, 5, 6, and 7-year veteran teachers who can lead and support the young teachers as they come in. And that's the team that allows a steady growth and the ability to get beyond beginning pedagogy, being a beginning teacher. We've worked on it. We've raised salaries, so we're no longer the lowest, and now we're the highest in Contra Costa as far as salaries go. But we also have to make this a district that teachers want to come and teach in. And that is the plan. That's the plan that we're working on now, and it's the plan that we need to continue.
For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been coaching grade level teams and new teachers in this district. And so it's clear to me that our instructional system is broken. What's also clear to me is that each of you tonight, before you go to bed, you should Google 90, 90, 90, and you will be inspired and you will be given hope. 90, 90, 90, that's it. And what you'll see is that what we need to do in this district is develop a coherent plan that's aligned to the principles you will see when you Google 90, 90, 90. And I think we will change the results, and we'll also have we'll also have new teachers who are willing to stay, not only because of a raise, but because of better conditions and better outcomes in being successful.
I think the most pressing problem that we're facing is a problem of culture. I think we have a culture today that is accepting or has accepted low performance with students. I think we have a culture that has accepted inequity in many schools and for many students, and we have a culture that's accepted teachers that leave and teacher turnover. And I think we need to change that culture all over the district, at the top and at the bottom, at the school level. I would work on prioritizing the needs of students and families. I would make sure that teachers and instructional leaders, principals, have the professional development that they need to change the culture at schools, to have a culture of thriving schools, of performance, and of student outcomes.
So I think that the biggest issue is low academic performance. I see it beginning in kindergarten, how there's not socio-emotional curriculums to help each kid at different developmental stages. In kindergarten, I think it's a perfect example for that, because you're exiting early childhood, starting middle childhood, so all kids are expected to be on the same wave, same learning curve, and they're obviously not there. And it's not because they're not capable, it's because we need different types of instructional technologies, not just tablets, not just computers that may or may not work, but we need to have more support for them, which means having classroom aids, having cradle to college curriculum and activities that really support the whole child, not just academics, because a child is way more than academics. And I think that we need to integrate the arts, not just writing, not just reading. Those are very urgent for them to learn, but it goes together. We don't learn things just separately. So I think that we need to start early on with programs that support the integration of all education.
I have to agree with the things that have been expressed here. We do have a number of problems that we need to address within the district, but the one that does stand out for me is the issue of teacher retention. I've had the fortunate opportunity to be able to get to know a good number of teachers in the district, and we have some really great teachers. We have a lot of really great teachers who feel overwhelmed, overworked, overtired. And we need to create a community where our teachers feel valued, where we're giving them the benefits that go along with value, and work toward really improving the environment and the culture so that teachers stay in our district, our best teachers stay in the district.
So what's the most pressing issue in West Contra Costa? Well, depending on what week it is and how more gray my hair has become, it depends, it shifts, but I think the biggest one that I've learned overall over the last 4 years has to do with funding. We can solve every problem we believe we have, because we do, but then at the end of the day, we don't have money to do it. That is the biggest issue for me, and so how do we make sure we use the money that we have in the most effective way? Funding effects, number one, are we providing the supports for students who need extra supports academically? Number two, do we have the pay that we need to be able to provide our educators so they can live in the Bay, so we can not have turnover, so that if they also work in other capacities in our schools, they can live here? What about school safety? What about paying for not only the physical safety, but also the mental health and services that are needed in our schools to avoid tragedies that we see every day in the nation? Those are all things that keep me up at night. And I'm dedicated, and you've seen me over the last 4 years, make sure that we address them. And also, I'm willing to ask for more money.
Time. Thank you.
I agree with most of what I've heard this evening. I would say the academic achievement gap and the teacher turnover, I believe they go hand in hand. So I would say adequate pay and benefits for our staff, decrease the overage in staffing, and putting more autonomy at the sites, resulting in more money for our employees.
As the mic gets this way to Ms. Lara, it'll be the last candidate.
So these are a lot of issues that they mentioned, but in my opinion, the biggest one is listening. This district does a really poor job of listening to parents, listening to students, listening to teachers, and finding out what they are willing to do, what they think should be the solutions to these problems. All of these issues could be solved through listening. So for example, yesterday the board said that they wanted to improve school lunches. Are they going to listen to students and hear what kind of school lunches they want? I was talking to a teacher a few weeks ago and they said, hey, what about vegan options? I would not have known that unless I sat down with that teacher. We have so many parents leaving to charter schools and we all say, hey, we want to close charter schools. Well, are we listening to these parents to see why are they going to charter schools? Are we listening to parents that are at charter schools and listening what we need to do to get them back? Another thing is teachers. We have so many teachers that are leaving the district. I know we give a survey to them to see why they left, but that can't be it. That's not working. And I know that that's not working because we have so many teachers leaving. So we need to do a better job of listening.
Okay, Consuelo, you'll be next. Yep. One of the top priorities of parents and district employees is to assure their protection of children's health and safety. What is your position on school safety? And what additional actions, if any, do you believe this district should take to assure student and staff safety?
Yes, I guess I can expand on what I talked about earlier about safety. In our schools, we have what's called CIS, Community in Schools, and these are programs that offer health and mental health and emotional health and all kinds of physical. Sometimes a doctor can be there. These are programs that the students need, and we actually do provide them in our district, but sometimes they're not supported enough. I know one place where they have a very high need, but there's not enough facilities. So we do have some great programs in place for these things. We need to identify them, support them, and expand them. Thank you.
School safety. Excuse me. My position on school safety is we need to keep our school buildings physically safe, and we need to, which we've done by all the efforts we've made to rebuild the buildings and put in a facilities master plan to try to address any safety issues that physically exist in our buildings. But in addition to that, there's emotional safety, and that's the programs that we put in for to supply support against bullying, and to have our children and our staff be able to understand steps they can take and places they can go to and people they can call on to support them when there are emotional safety issues.
The key for me is the second part of the sentence where it says, what additional actions can we take? A lot has been done so far, and I think the one additional action that we could take that doesn't cost a dime other than the coaching piece is to integrate our core curriculum with the social emotional programs that we have at every school site. So we have these wonderful social emotional programs that are reduced to posters on a board, and they should be thoroughly integrated within the core curriculum so that we change mindsets and mentalities and promote a safer environment by having safer feeling children in those schools as well as adults.
So one of the top priorities, one of the top priorities for safety is really, we provide to many of our students some basic needs, both from a free and reduced lunch, breakfast programs, and a lot of students are coming to the schools because they need basic services in addition to education. Many of our teachers, fortunately, did not grow up and did not face that. So I think part of that is the conversation we need to have, so it's not an us versus them, and we're really talking about the whole community of learners and what services we need to provide for all students to make sure that they're taken care of.
Sorry. So I really do think that we need to have a culture shift on buying into programs that have to do with social-emotional learning, because I think that a lot of people who grew up without having these supports may not believe yet or may not know about them. So I think we need to expand that to every site to have a social-emotional curriculum integrated already into the core areas. And we also need to have, I think, growth mindset trainings of what that looks like, how to deal with trauma you may have outside the classroom in a way that is positive in your situation. I think that we do a lot academically, but we need to do more to support the social and mental health of our kids. I also think about the physical safety. So there's a lot of head injuries that get treated with just ice, maybe a phone call home to be following policy on how to treat those injuries. But we need nurses. I grew up with school nurses, when I came to the United States. And there's no school nurses. So when something happens, you just call home and expect the parents to pick up. That's not okay for our kids.
I have to agree with my panelists with regard to the needs of both emotional and physical safety, but I'm going to hone in on physical safety. One of the things that has become somewhat controversial in the district are school resource officers. And there's a lot of debate about whether or not we need school resource officers or how many school resource officers that we need. As the parent of a child that's headed into middle school, I want school resource officers. I want people in place on campus that are going to be there for my child to go to if there is an emergency situation. So I think what we need to do is build a sense of community, though. We need to do a better job of having the school resource office relate to our parents, our kids, our teachers, so that they are part of the community and not just the big bad police officers, particularly in light of things going on in the country right now.
So I took the question and I thought about it. I wrote a lot of stuff down because it really is comprehensive, this approach. And we've struggled with it. There is physical safety, but then there's emotional safety that needs to happen in schools too. But at the bottom line is, how are we creating a fabric of community in our schools? When I was in school, there was bullying that might have happened, and we had an educator who would set us aside and say, that's wrong. Or if we needed support because we were walking home by ourselves, there might be a slew of neighbors who knew who we were and would watch out for us to make sure we would get home. We had supports for educators to make sure they have the tools they need to provide safety. And we need physical safety. That's one of the lessons I've learned over the last year. Yes, we do need school resource officers. We need campus safety officers, most importantly, because I think they're the bridge for us between that role of who from the community can play that role when it comes to we need bigger enforcement, which is a challenge for me. And we'll talk more about that later.
I believe we need school-based safety and discipline plans. They must exist, but not just exist, but we have to utilize them. All members of the staff should be trained in strategies and practices that keep them safe. And yes, that might mean SROs. The school-to-prison pipeline is not the police officers on campus, but the students that are not reading at grade level by third grade.
The first thing is better communication with our parents. There was a mother that told me that she dropped her student off at 7:30 a.m. like she does every day. She comes after school to pick up her son. He's not there. It turns out that he was knocked down and sent to the hospital, and she was never made aware of this. Our parents need to know what's going on, when it's going on. They need to be notified on these things. I've been talking to many of our CSOs, or campus security officers, and a lot of them are saying they feel that they need the same training that our teachers are going through. A lot of our teachers are getting restorative justice training. We need to be providing these trainings for everybody that works at our school sites. Our office workers, our CSOs, our lunch ladies, everybody needs to be involved on these trainings. Another thing is more after-school programs. A lot of our students leave school, and what do they go home to? Sometimes they don't have parents at home. Sometimes they just wander around the streets. If we provide a community for them to be a part of after school, we at least know that they're safe.
Thank you. I would like to follow up on what my friend Anthony said. We need all those things. More enrichment programs, more enrichment activities, after school activities. But one thing that I'll tell you we don't need more guns on campus. And I don't care whether they are in the hands of school resource officers or students. Of course, we don't want them in the hands of students, but we don't want to start the school to jail pipeline by having armed officers in our schools. There are other ways. We have programs, we can have a panoply of academic, social, mental health programs, interventions, communication with our parents, like Anthony said. Parents will be, I'm sure, more than willing, after proper screening, to spend some time on our schools to make sure that the children are safe, but no more guns.
Thank you. What is your position on charter schools? Please explain and provide us with your view of their short-term and long-term impact in West Contra Costa. What would you recommend to stem the tide of students who exit the district to attend a charter school? Ms. Cronenberg, you start with us this time.
Charter schools are a complicated issue because they were started to allow teachers to have more flexibility in their teaching strategies. And they've developed into a system of schools that are sort of outside the education code as we know it, and they're operated by a variety of different types of operators. The problem with the charter schools for the school district in the short term and the long term is that they drain resources from district schools. We're unable, at some point, we're going to be unable to pay our bills, and we're going to have to make cuts if they proliferate, they continue to proliferate in the district. So we need to change the law. That's one of my big positions. We need to change the law so that doesn't happen, and there is no longer a devastating economic impact from their growth. We could stem the tide if we could compete.
I agree that the charter school issue is complicated. No parent wants to send their child to a school that they don't trust or feel that their child is safe in. However, public education in this country is what has made this country great. It's a civil right, and it is a national security matter. And if we cannot keep children, especially low-income children, in a great public school environment, what we're doing is undermining the entire fabric of the public education system, and by extension, we're undermining our democracy as well. And so we have to do what is necessary to make our schools as attractive and good as possible, so that students will be flocking to the schools as opposed to the current situation. We also need reform statewide so that there are limitations that are placed on the whole charter initiative.
Parents are leaving because they're not satisfied with the experience that they're having with their local school. I think the majority of parents that I know, and I would imagine across the whole community, is looking for a thriving school in their local community that they can walk to, they can bike to, and they can drive to. When that's not happening, then they're choosing other options. I think the best thing to deal with the charter school is to change the culture and change the outcomes of what's happening in our local schools so that more parents are staying rather than leaving. The question asked, in the long term, I would look also to create potential innovation zones. There's a lot of districts across the country that are doing this, that are giving within the collective bargaining unit a little more flexibility for schools to innovate. So there isn't such a push for charters, but there's a long-term vision of how to bring innovation and creativity into the local schools.
So I agree that the charter issue is complicated because of the long-term impacts that we see on economics and on segregation here in the local community. And I think it's important to know that it is an option that parents choose many times, because there's like an idea that goes behind a charter. Like they may be like a GATE program, which we don't have. We can test kids beginning in 3rd grade for GATE programs. We don't have GATE programs to really give them or to give them a place to grow academically and social emotionally. So I think that we don't necessarily need more charters. I was myself thinking about working for a charter recently because they did offer better pay, they did have an innovative program, they offered extended care hours, but I think we can all do that with the community schools we have already and form partnerships with universities to have programs that offer the kinds of things that charters kind of like lure parents with, you know? They want better schools for their kids, they want to have an option, and I think we should be able to provide that and innovate programs with DLA programs and Mathaniku after school programs with different activities.
I'm in favor of good schools. Whether they're public schools or charter schools, I'm in favor of good schools. In general, I am not in favor of for-profit charter schools, but I believe that charter schools can be a good option for some families. The second part of this question says, what would you recommend to stem the tide of students who exit the district to attend charter school? I think once we work on doing the things that we've discussed tonight with regard to improving our public schools, that could help stem the tide. But my position on charter schools is that I'm not against them, but I see why some, and I do understand why some parents would choose charter schools.
So when I ran 4 years ago, it was very clear, which is I believe in opportunity for every student. And along the way, I've come to learn that all our schools, whether they are traditional neighborhood schools or charter schools, there's lots of good schools offering that. And there are lots of typical neighborhood schools and charter schools that are not offering that. And I've come to realize that as a steward of this district, there's a big implication financially for us that I cannot be silent on, and that is facilities. It's something we don't budget for, but it's mandated by state law that we have to find space. So as much as I might be in favor of that opportunity, then what it does, it creates chaos for me. Because I already told you we have limited resources. So how do I then budget for opportunity for one and then hold back opportunity for another? And I've said over and over again though, the issue is at the state level. And I'm ready to join with you to say we need more accountability and more transparency, and the state better start paying for facilities impact as well. Thank you.
I'm for what's best for our children, and I believe that if we as a district would create such programming that would make our parents not want to leave, we wouldn't have the issue of whether they should go to charter schools or not. I would recommend, though, holding charter schools at the same high standard that we do all our schools. However, I would never prevent a parent from choosing what they feel is best for their child.
First off, this isn't a complicated issue at all. This is not. We should not have charter schools in our district. It's as plain as that. Now the next piece of it is, my colleagues are saying we need to improve our schools to the point where we don't need district schools. Well, how do we do that? We need to listen to parents and hear why they want to go to charter schools. We need to listen to parents and hear why they don't want to send their kids to Kennedy, why they don't want to send their kids to Dijon. By doing that, then we can improve our schools. We need to have ambassador programs where we have our middle school students and teachers go to elementary schools and show up the great things that they're doing. A lot of parents are scared to come to our schools because of rumors. If we could squash these rumors to begin with, then they'll feel more safe, they'll feel more comfortable. I was talking to a mother here in the Richmond Marina who sends her student all the way to Oakland, and I asked why? Why do you go all the way over there? And she says, well, because I heard Kennedy doesn't have a good arts program, and I want a good arts program for my daughter. And I said, well, did you hear about the t-shirt program where you could help design t-shirts? She said, no, I didn't know that. If I would have known, I would have sent my student there.
Thank you. Charter schools. Well, I think that first of all, we need to know exactly what charter schools are. They are privately managed and publicly funded schools. They represent a financial hemorrhage on our district. A financial hemorrhage that prevents our district from implementing the needed and the wanted spread of social, mental health, and academic services that our students need. Obviously, the answer is that we need to make our schools better, and we are working on that, and that should be our goal, and that is what I will work toward. But just take this into account. Just on average daily attendance, our district is subsidizing charter schools, 6,000 students in charter schools to the tune of $60 million per year. That's $60 million that we don't have precisely for the programs that we do need. The way they translated charter schools into Spanish is very clear. Autonomous, subsidized schools. Let's stop that.
It is a very difficult situation. I agree, it's not really complicated. There are those out there who want to privatize and capitalize on our public schools. That's clear. And what is also clear, how that happens. How do they choose the districts they choose? How do they choose those communities to go into? What steps do they take? How do they get into that community in order to have these parents come here? It's very interesting. We need to shine light into the dark corners where that money comes from.
Ms. Kramer, did you answer that? You started, right? And then just a reminder for the audience, please do not clap. I know we have a lot of folks that really like answers. Please, we're recording, please do not clap. All right, for the next question.
As a school board member, what would you do to make sure all district employees receive adequate pay and affordable health benefits?
I think there are two things that have to be done. The first is that we have to have fidelity to a plan that aligns our resources and then leverages the resources from the community to the school sites. And secondly, we have to, as one of the panelists just mentioned, shed the light on the situation where our students, particularly the black and brown students, are being used as donors to fund schools that operate outside the public domain.
So I think really is to prioritize the spending in the budget. I support what the union and the staff and the district negotiated teacher pay raise, so I applaud that because, as we know, teachers are leaving, and that's one way to stem that tide. And then I would ensure that the cost of all of this is properly reflected in the budget and in proposals and in the plan. If we have it laid out and we know what it is, then we can plan for it and make sure that everyone has pay and benefits that they need.
So I definitely agree that we need to be fiscally responsible and budget well for teacher pay and for all staff to have the benefits that they need to have to lead a healthy life. I think that we need to lead and listen and lead. I think they go hand in hand, and we need to truly listen to what unions and employees say collectively, not just like a one-off conversation in the hallway, but actually take the time to look at the feedback that teachers and staff give and send back with their unions, because there's a lot of power to that, and not just to write on a paper what you wish to get or what type of Kaiser plant you want or anything like that, but to actually have options, not bad options, but options that help you lead the kind of life that you want to lead as part of the district and to stay in the district. Yeah, and I think that we just need to have an open conversation about what we want, because needs change over time, and revising plans is, I think, important to keep up with what our employees need.
It's my great wish that all teachers could receive a salary that they truly deserve. It's as an occupation, we all know that teachers earn far less than similar other positions that require similar education. But taking that into consideration, I think our unions are doing a good job on working on behalf of our certificated and non-certificated staff, and taking a look at the current salary schedule. We are still working toward being on par with the other salaries within the state and nationally. And this is a serious issue. We really need to make sure that our teachers are being paid what they deserve, and I think we're on track to do that. So we need to just make sure that we, as a board, as a district, are accountable for making our teachers feel valued by paying them their worth.
So how do you put value on what happens, that magic that happens in a classroom? It's priceless. So no matter what I do, it's never going to be enough, but it matters what we do. And I'm real proud to be part of a board that has worked to raise salaries. By the end of the next 3 years, there's going to be 14% increase for teachers, 10% increase for our classified and other certified staff. The issue now is going to be to fulfill that promise. So again, it goes back to funding and budget and the decisions that we're making. We instituted a number of group studies and worked with our bargaining units to make sure the community knows what does it mean to make those trade-offs. We have a $353 million budget. That's still not enough, but 80% of that budget goes to people and salaries. And I'm committed to make sure we continue to invest. Because even if you are the most classically trained economist, conservative to the bone, never want to spend a dollar, we're being outmarketed by other districts. That ought to resonate with people who don't want to spend money. I need to spend money.
I agree with some of the panelists. The discussion with teachers and the unions need to continue and go a little more in depth, and we actually need to listen to them. I would continue to work with the members on the board, if elected, to create a reasonable budget that's not, that is fair not only to our students and our teachers, but to those who serve our students, the teachers, right? So we are not fixing a problem if we help one but hurt another and take away from another. So we have to come together and be cohesive and work really closely with the unions and the teachers and listen. That's the going word here, listen. I think we hear sometimes, but we don't listen, meaning we do what we're hearing that those that we are working for need from us.
As a school board member, what will you do to make sure that all district employees receive adequate pay and affordable health benefits? Give them the pay raise that they deserve. It's as simple as that.
I think our classified and certified employees have a strong union, and it is the union's job to make sure that they have adequate pay and affordable health benefits. As a board member, I would not let the board make any decisions that will affect the material conditions of work of classified or certified workers without their consultation. They will be an integral part of the decision making. And I also would pay very close attention at all the wasteful spending that goes on. And that should be done by a closer, much closer vigilance by community, teachers, and the leadership of our unions. Thank you.
Yes, I remember, during negotiation times, the issue of trust, the issue of are we dealing in good faith, and it was a problem. It was always an issue, especially around our salaries. Some things have changed around that, but as a school board member, I would want to make sure that we are together and that we understand and have, similar goals for that.
Adequate pay and affordable health benefits. It's been mentioned, adequate in the Bay Area is going to be very hard to ever get to for this school district. But we have to try, and we just did. We tried, and we moved it as high as I think we can right now. One of the things we could do that we haven't looked at, but that we actually did a resolution on, was single payer. And I think there's something to be said for single payer and our moving forward with single payer. That does change the healthcare conversation. And as far as adequate pay, the way we can change the conversation is to bring in more funding. And that can be, we can do that by supporting the Prop 13, the change in Prop 13, and anything else that we can look at that will actually bring us some more funding so that we don't have to constantly apologize for how much California pays for its schools.
Our students and employees go through trauma every single day, in and outside the classroom. Having trauma support for our sites has become key to the educational development and well-being of our students. What will you do as a school board member to ensure our students and district employees get what they need to deal with trauma?
Yeah, too many, as you know, students are coming to school with trauma and are experiencing. Teachers are great at identifying the students that are coming in with trauma due to their disposition, due to the way they're interacting, but it's really hard without having the experience of how to help students with that trauma. So I would make sure that we have additional professional development and support for teachers on how to deal with that. And then as professionals, they're also dealing with trauma in supporting these students. So we really need to have a dialogue of how can we support our teachers, our principals, to deal with the trauma that they're facing, as well as to change that school culture where we know there's some safe spaces for students that are dealing with trauma outside of school.
I agree that we definitely need to have systems in place to help at each site and district-wide for kids that need more services for their trauma in their young lives. And we need more counselors and psychologists to do that. We have a part-time psychologist at our school that's there 1 day a week to serve all the kids. How is that going to happen? You know, with violence in the world, violence in our community, violence sometimes even at our schools, it's not enough to have part-time, you know, counselors and psychologists that are spread thin through all our schools, having to help kids with a multitude of needs without having built any kind of like relationship with them, because they're, you know, 1/5 of the week they're there. I think we need to have also systems in place, such as SSTs. I was a chairperson of the SST team at my school last year, and it was a learning process because we had to do restorative practices at our school and learn how to treat and help our kids rather than just punish them or send them directly to the office.
Trauma can be physical, emotional, psychological. There are many forms of trauma, and trauma can occur inside the classroom, outside the classroom, within the school, and outside of the school. So we're talking about a lot of different things when we talk about trauma. I think there are a few ways we need to address trauma. One is the awareness. First, we must be aware that the trauma is occurring, and to encourage increased awareness for teachers, for staff. We all need to be a part of that community, that we're taking care of one another. Secondly, built-in support services at the campus level that can deal with the various forms of trauma, and then also partnering with the community services externally that are already in existence and that can be a part of that community that helps our students and our staff deal with the trauma that's occurring around them.
I think one of the best ways to deal with trauma is to actually be empathetic and know what trauma looks like and what it feels like, and then do something about it. Whether it's me going out and walking with the safe walks that happen every Friday night against gun violence, or it's actually me talking to educators and find out what supports you need, and even me saying, you know what, we spend $2.4 million on SROs. Can we spend $2.4 million on wraparound mental health services as well? I got punished for having that conversation, but I'm gonna keep having it, because to address trauma means it's a comprehensive approach, and you don't just talk, you actually walk with your feet, and you think with your brain, and you lead with your heart to figure out how to actually give people what they need. Trauma is about attending to people's needs. And if you know me, I want to put people first. That's what I've been talking about the whole time I've been on this board. How do we put people first? Our people are our greatest asset. Whether we're paying them, whether we're attending to their needs, whether we're making sure our kids have what they need to succeed, they are our greatest asset. That's how we need to make sure we lead. And I want to continue to lead that way. Thank you.
I agree in building the supports and partnering. We have to communicate with our staff. We have to communicate with our children when violence takes place, and I'm going to speak on the violence end of it, and within the community, it's impacting our youth and it's impacting our teachers. We've had shootings this week alone, and so conversations, we can't be afraid to have the conversations with our young people or with our staff on what to do next. Why are you afraid? So bringing in the wraparound services and mental health services and supporting the whole child. We learned that in early childhood development that you have to serve the whole child. You can't just serve a piece of them. And so we have to cater to the whole child and the whole adult, meaning our staff.
The district contracts with the YMCA to provide mental health services for a lot of our schools. At Kennedy High School, they have 3 mental health counselors, and they told me that out of 300 students, the average of them scored a 4.9 on a 5-point scale in terms of trauma. 5 meaning really, really high trauma. The average was 4.9. That funding has been cut. Who are those students supposed to go to now? So what I propose is that we put in more programs to provide relief for our students who are facing trauma. Sometimes school is the only thing that these students look forward to. I was recently running a summer program, and one of my students was homeless, and I had no idea. His dad kicked him out of the house, but he showed up to the program every single day, and when I asked him why, he said, because this is what I look forward to. If we provided more after-school programs, more school clubs, students can find relief from some of those traumas that they're going through. My fiance, Mitzi Perez, she's a teacher at Kennedy High School. One of her students would only show up to her class and none of the others, and that's because her class provided that relief that she needed.
Yes, I have seen many students and teachers traumatized. And of course, we need more counselors, we need more school psychologists, we need more money. But I think that what we need is to get at the root cause of the problem. And I suggested earlier that we should transform and create an experiment, a bold experiment. Take a preschool, kindergarten, elementary, middle, and high school and turn those schools into hubs for giving access to all our children, social, psychological, and mental health services. That will do a great deal to lessen the trauma of our students and our teachers. They will be less angry and less frustrated and happier because we want our children to be happy. We want them to play. We want them to enjoy life. Thank you.
Yes, as any teacher has been here for a while, you've experienced a trauma that's been violent and affected everyone at a school, whether it was something that happened to a family, a child, or even at the school. And it's just something that the community comes together. The community comes together and we try to find the support that we need from each other. So I have to say that we do have some of those support systems in place. Community in schools, again, I brought that up. And I was sad to hear about that program being cut because I saw that as one of the models that could be duplicated in other schools. And that's where our caseworkers are, and that's where groups are made, and things can be, the trauma can be processed. Thank you.
Our schools in this district, all the years my children have been involved in this district, have always been affected by trauma. Right now, we're in a global society where trauma is commonplace. I've heard from community members, staff members who've told me the trauma from one student at a school who is dealing with deportation in their family and how that affects the entire school site. We need to recognize that. We need to grow our trauma-informed practices, and what that means is that everybody needs to see themselves as someone who's part of the solution to support the trauma that we're all feeling and recognize when they see it in each other.
I was a principal of a special education school in Bayview Hunters Point, and in addition to a special education designation, everyone at the school had committed a felony. When you are in an environment like we are in now, where there is democratized trauma, you don't even have to be directly involved, you hear about it so much, it begins to wear on hope. And trauma is an attack on hope. And I think what we have to do, as Madeline just said, is we have to train everybody to be recognizers of the trauma that exists all around us and give people the opportunity to feel included in a process that brings hope to all of our students.
West Contra Costa Unified School District shares the nationwide problem of high suspensions of our African American and Latino students. How should West Contra Costa Unified School District deal with this systematic challenge? Please explain and be specific.
So I think we need to evaluate the referral trends that we have currently at each site and do away with the disciplinary policies that we have that are punitive and establish restorative practices approaches at each site that empower our Black and brown kids, not just punish them and dehumanize them. I've been dealing, like another panelist said, with deportation, with imprisonment. These are issues that don't stop when the child steps in the classroom. Personally, too, I was kicked out a lot of times, and I've, internalized what that feels like, and that didn't help a bit. It helped when there were, care teams in place to bring us back into the classroom and to succeed. I think we definitely need to address the systemic challenges that we have with being an institution, of learning. Not everybody that's Black and brown, has inherited that from families. It had to be, made into the law that we had to be able to come to school so that we could integrate and come to the same schools, not, just because we look different, we had to go to a different school. So I think that we need to really fully live that out by having programs that address the different needs of our Black and brown kids.
Are African American and Latino students less capable of learning? No. Are African American and Latino students less deserving of a quality education? No. Do African American and Latino students face different challenges than other students? Yes. Here's where we need to act as a community again. We need to be aware of some of the underlying issues that impact the behavior and the learning styles and the learning challenges that Black and brown students have in the classroom and on the school campus. We as educators, as people who are interested in the development of all students, need to have education and encourage education and understanding of cultural differences that impact the lives of Black and brown students. We need to be not only aware of them, but willing to promote their success and actively work for them to succeed.
So one of the biggest challenges that we know exists in our world is implicit bias. And what does that mean? It means that I believe that all our school systems, there are folks in there who are good people, well-intentioned, but maybe not aware of what that implicit bias is, because we all have it. I have it, you have it, the neighbor has it, your kids have it, we all have it. But what happens is that systemically, when that gets acted upon in our classrooms, and kids who are Black or brown are disproportionately given suspensions because of something called defiance, willful defiance, it doesn't make sense, because then it's punitive, and what do? We kick kids out of classroom. We say, we're going to punish you by kicking you out of classroom. It's like, well, why don't we give them more classroom if that's the punishment? But we don't. And so what we did this year is we passed a comprehensive school climate policy that wasn't just about stopping implicit bias. That's going to be that's lifelong work. But it is about providing supports to our educators, to our administrators, to our school communities, and then I worked hard to try to get resources to that, and that's the most important thing. And yes, I fought hard and I made sure we had a clause in there that said it includes smaller classrooms. That's important.
I believe we need to train our staff how to communicate with our Black and brown students, relationship building. Our youth are crying out for help. Sending them home is not going to help. You're sending them back in the environment that more than likely is causing them to act out in the classroom. Another thing that I would suggest is hiring staff that can identify with our Black and brown students. Those that look like them, we need to have a balance in that area as well.
I've spent the last year doing research into what other school districts are doing that face the same demographics that we have here. I'm going to give you a really, really good example. In the school district of Baltimore, I believe it's Baltimore, what they do is as soon as a student is suspended, they assign a mentor. Immediately, they assign a mentor. Their suspension rates went down over 50%. That is a great program that we could be implementing here. I'm going to echo what Ms. Cuevas said, which is we need smaller class sizes. I'm going to give you two scenarios right now. In a large classroom, there was a student, and the teacher said, all right, please take out your pencils and take notes. Student did not take out the pencil. Teacher says it again, please take out your pencil, take notes. Student did not take out the pencil. Student gets suspended. It turns out that that student didn't have a pencil. If we had smaller class sizes, our teachers could have more one-on-one attention with these students. They could figure out what's going on, and they could prevent these implicit biases from being acted on. In another situation, there was a student who walked out of the classroom because they couldn't see the board. It was a smaller classroom, so that teacher was able to ask that student, why did you walk out? And the student said, because I couldn't see the board. They fixed the issue. We need smaller class sizes.
Había un question. Oh, no, I think we I thought we had gone through that. I'm sorry. I think that what we really need here is a comprehensive school-wide plan of interventions, access to social, mental, and health systems. But what we need more than that is to get at the root cause. Again, our schools must become centers for health, mental services. Our students are bored. We are not training them correctly, and that's where they have trauma. Our teachers are frustrated. They are forced to teach courses for which the students are not prepared. We are prohibited, under this umbrella of the college-going culture, we are prohibited for even mentioning the word remedial classes. But those are the things that we need. We need to face the fact that the time has up. Thank you.
It's been my experience that when the student gets to the point where they need to be suspended, where they're acting out or not, they're just not present and they're disruptive, that there's more going on there. There's a lot more going on. And just kicking them out of school is not going to help. So again, back to how we treat trauma and what kind of services we give to that. But for the black and brown students, there could be also language issues, especially when we want to deal with the families. And sometimes these are culturally specific issues. Sometimes, so you need to involve the community. You need to involve the families. So I think that's very important to have more stronger community involvement on these issues. Thank you.
Okay, high suspensions from of our African American and Latino students. I think the background for that is the communication in the classroom. What you're talking about is what's happening, what the culture of each classroom is about. You'll find that some teachers are more likely to have higher suspensions than other teachers. And that has to do with how the classrooms are run. And I really believe what we need to do is bring in a much deeper connection to restorative practices so that our teaching staff and all of our staff understand how to communicate. And restorative practices are not about just about solving a problem once it's happened, but heading it off at the pass, having the kind of conversations, the kind of classroom management techniques and classroom operations where students feel respected and feel listened to and understand that they want to stay and not be suspended.
I think there are three major things that we can do, but they're all wrapped in a single word that I have not heard tonight, and that is love. I think that we have to integrate academic language development as well as English language development into our social-emotional programs and embed those within our core curriculum. Number two, we need social-emotional standards for everybody on campus, and I mean literally everyone on campus. And then obviously we need support from site-based services to provide the kind of intervention or preventative services that enable us to function in a way that promotes our love for the students. Because when people feel loved and people feel supported, they respond to their traumas differently.
You know, when I look at the data, there's a high correlation between African American and Latino students' suspension and their reading and math scores, especially reading scores. If you're a student that has not reading in third, fourth grade, and you keep moving through the system, you can't access anything that's happening in any classroom: science, social studies, math, English language arts. And then you start acting out because you can't access anything. And then the teacher's frustrated and you don't know what to do. So I think in order to bring down the suspensions, we really need to look at instruction. We need to have a culture of students succeeding. We need to have strong interventions for those in the 4th, 5th, 6th grade that are not succeeding, and we need to turn that around, because as they're learning and succeeding, there's going to be a lot less suspension.
Question number 8. Preparing students for college and giving them the tools to compete in America's job market is a high priority. What will you do in the district to enhance college and career readiness?
There are 3 things I think that we can do to help children succeed and enhance our college and career readiness. One is creating an environment of success. One where we demonstrate our belief that all children can succeed, giving them the confidence in themselves that they can succeed, which translates into success. 2, we need to continue to improve the quality of education and delivery of education so that they are realistically competitive for college and for careers in our community. And 3, we need to partner. We have this great opportunity to partner with the colleges and universities in our area and encourage the idea of college. There are some students who are still to be first-generation college students, first-generation college graduates. A lot of it is about information and access to information, and we have this great opportunity to do it for free.
When I ran 4 years ago, I was really focused on this particular issue because our data showed us there are a number of kids, particularly at 2 high schools in particular, where even just to meet the requirements to apply to university was really low. So if a kid had a dream, a desire, a family wanted to do it, you couldn't even apply to get in. So we focus, and we have a roadmap that's focused on college and career. And I want to talk about how the word career fits into that. That it's also about seeking other types of education outside of high school, beyond high school, that could be professional or vocational development as well, and that's important. 3 things I think are important in terms of how do you have a pathway to get there is continue to support our educators so they have the supports they need to be the best deliverers of education. We can't do that if we're not paying them enough, and we can't do it if we're not giving the curricular tools and the autonomy to be able to do the work that they need. Second, we need to make sure we identify where our kids are and their gaps, and they start very early, and how do we close those gaps early in the pipeline. And lastly, in my last 5 seconds, send more money to schools, directly to school sites. That's how we're going to get more kids in college.
I agree. Schools need more money. I will also continue to support the smaller learning communities that we have at our schools, the academies in our local high schools currently. I will also create a plan to bring exposure to our elementary school students so that they too can know that they don't have to wait to get introduced to college in middle or high school, but that it can become a reality and a plan can be put in place at a younger age. So taking them on field trips and things of that nature, the exposure for our younger kids I think would be awesome, as well as closing the gap.
If you look at 2016 numbers, only a third of Kennedy High School graduates qualify to go to college. Only a third. That means that you can get a diploma from this school district and not qualify to go to college, and that's because our graduation requirements are not aligning with the A through G college requirements, and that's step number 1. If we want our students to be able to go to college, we need to raise these graduation requirements. Now, I know that not every student is going to go to college, but every student should be able to qualify and should be ready for college. Another thing is more awareness of the A through G requirements. I talked to a junior and he did not know what the A through G requirements were, and he didn't know that he was missing 3 of the requirements. He's a junior. He has less than a year to get everything up ready so that way he can go to college. We need more peer mentors when it comes to college readiness. What that means is you take the top 10% of students that are going to go to college, that have the grades, and what you do is you have them promote college readiness requirements, promote FAFSA deadlines to all the other students, because our college counselors can't do it all, but we can sure spread that information.
For a long time, the majority of our graduates are not ready for college or career. Look at the statistics by the district's own revelation here. Only 40% of our graduates are ready for college. What about the other 60%? They are not ready for college, and they are not ready for career or anything else. And that's what we should face. I will quickly give you an example of how we should rethink our whole schooling and how we should rethink this schizo separation between college-going culture and career culture. One of my favorite movies is Nanook of the North, about the Eskimo life. The Eskimo children train themselves, they play, they work, and they study building. They build slaves. They build a makeshift bow and arrow, and they make a makeshift harpoon. That's what they need for life and work in an Eskimo life. What we need in this information age is career, technology, college readiness in one for all now.
Thank you. I was walking down the street and I ran into a student of mine that I had many years ago, and I said, wow, you know, how are you doing? And when did you graduate? He said, oh man, I didn't. I had to drop out when I was a junior because I had to help my mom. A child had to make a decision between his education and his family. If we were doing our job, he could have had after-school job, a weekend job, summer job. He could be helping his family all along. When he graduated, he could be ready to step into an apprenticeship program or step into a program at the Contra Costa College so that he could be ready for a good job. Because like it's been said here, not everybody's going to go to college.
Enhanced college and career readiness. I was a career tech teacher for my 30 years as a teacher, and many of my adult school students were not high school graduates, but did become career ready. So I think one of the things we need to do is really be clear with students about what career paths are available. We need to look to our community college. The truth is most of our students who go to college will go to Contra Costa Community College. The numbers show that. So we should partner more deeply with Contra Costa Community College and building pathways and connecting their staff with our staff so that, and with our industry partners so that people understand what we need to learn and who needs to teach it to them. The other last thing is we need to have internships.
The key to the question for me is college and career readiness. I think that we have to have a full court press from TK to grade 3 to teach people to read. I am, as I said, a father of 4. I live in North Richmond, California. I have a son at Harvard, Brown, and another at Emory, and then a sophomore at Pinot. And people say, well, what did you do? I did absolutely nothing other than give them food and shelter, except for the fact they went to schools where someone taught them to read by grade 3. And that was incredibly useful. So we have to do that. The second thing, for those that we miss in grades TK to 3, we need intervention programs that accelerate their reading, and then once people can read, they read to learn. They'll create their own readiness.
I'll echo some of that answer. I came to the United States when I was in first grade, 7 years old, speaking no English. My family moved here from Argentina. My sister, my brother, and I all went not only through high school, to college, to graduate school, and to successful careers because we learned to read. And I think if the data shows that, I'm looking at it, 30% of third graders read at grade level, that means 70% are not reading at grade level. If you're not reading at grade level at third grade, as you go through 4th, 5th, 6th grade, it becomes more about the content than learning to read. And you're already behind, and you go further and further behind. So if you're not reading, the chances of you being college ready, career ready, diminishes. And in today's world, if you're not reading, you're not career ready. Like the days of wood shop and being able to just do work without reading are gone. So we have to focus on reading, to focus on the basic skills, and have the interventions needed to catch students up that have fallen behind.
Yeah, I actually printed out the data, and we, from last year, and 50% of our students, more than 50% are not ready. They're not proficient in math or in reading. which are necessary to access, institutions of higher education. We also need to build partnerships with the colleges here, locally, and regional universities as well, to have a cradle to college program where families get to tour schools and they get to talk to actual admissions staff, not just, have this idea of what higher education is. I also think that we need to see the invisible barriers that create these kinds of problems, like not doing enough project-based learning or problem-based learning activities in the classrooms. And yeah, I think that we have undocumented students here too. What does that mean for them to go to college, for their families? We have first-generation students too. For me, this is very personal and also political because I came here, I was undocumented, took a lot of years for me to be able to get my papers. I had to deny my admission to 4 different universities, and that was really painful. So I think that we need to be here for our kids for these needs.
Okay, last question before we get to our rapid response.
As the labor unions in West County, we are deeply connected to decisions made that affect staff and students. What is your view of unions in our work, and how would you work with us if elected as a school board member?
Okay, I get to go first, which I think is something I'm very excited about. First of all, lots of folks, they didn't know who I was really when I ran. They didn't know me and my values. But I knew who I was, and my values are very pro-union. I grew up in a union family. I had health insurance as a poor child only because my mother belonged to a union. And that's important, and something I'll never forget. On top of that, I've been supportive of our unions my whole entire career on the school board, and I didn't get the union endorsement because that's not what's important to me. What's important is in supporting our unions, whether you get it or not, because that's the right thing to do. And it happens. It happens that people make mischaracterizations, but through your actions is how you show them that you're pro-union. As a matter of fact, I've had conversations with our union presidents before about how we find a way to get charters to become unionized, especially within our district. And I'm willing to lead that effort. Thank you.
I support our unions. I believe the unions are necessary. I believe unions provide excellent support and necessary resources that's needed for the employees. My grandfather was a union worker, and because of his hard union work, he was supported and he was able to support his family. And so I believe that unions are pro-people, and they take in consideration people over money first. The consideration of their livelihood is important to the union, so I support unions wholeheartedly.
Of course I would work with unions as a school board member. I vow not to pass a single one of my decisions without asking the union what their input is on it first. Now I'm not just talking about the teachers union. If I could unionize students, I would unionize students. There's parents unionizing right now, forming their own organizations. I want to talk with them too. I believe that unions are the essential part of community organizing. And for those that know me, that's what I do. I mobilize, I organize, and I deliver. And I believe that's what we need more in this district. Our school board members, I don't believe that all of them are equipped to make the right decisions. Therefore, we need to rely on our unions to hold them accountable. I don't think that they can make the right decisions. Therefore, I believe we need students to hold them accountable. We need parents to hold them accountable. We need everybody to have a seat at the table to make these decisions. Because just 5 people working all the decisions for this entire district is not enough. A lot of corruption is going on right now, and we need our unions to hold us accountable.
Well, this is a very interesting question, and I hope you have realized that this is very closely related to question 4 on charter schools, who it's not by law, but it is common practice. They don't hire union in the cafeteria, in the school, and oftentimes in the construction site. Just witness the buildings here on Hilltop Mall. They brought labor from Nevada for that. And it's also related to question 5 about adequate pay and health benefits for everyone. I strongly believe in unions. Unions gave us the weekend. They gave us the 8-hour day. And we need unions. And as a board member, I repeat what I said earlier. I would not take any decision that would affect the well-being, the material conditions of labor, certified or classified without consulting with them. I don't believe in a top-down type of governance. I think unions are essential part of our district.
I agree, absolutely. The unions are an essential part of our district. I support them wholeheartedly, and I would like to see even more of the unions and the trades more visible in our schools as well. And I think that would be something that would be very useful for students. It kind of is connected to the previous question about career, getting ready for jobs, etc. Yeah, I think that's it.
I come from a union family. I've been in the union for 30 years in Hayward. I've been on strike 4 times because I was in Hayward. I'm aware of the fact that what unions do is really provide the voice for the workforce. And they are able to make things so that they really are fair, that the power struggle is different. So I am a huge supporter of unions. I've supported the unions since I've been on the school board. I've been on there's a committee we have called the Solutions Team, and I've been on it since it was created. I worked with the unions to help pass our bond measures and our parcel taxes. I've worked with the unions, with all of you, because I respect every last thing in our contract. It's our promise to our workforce. Without our workforce, we don't exist.
I'm from San Francisco, California, before moving to Richmond, and I think it's against the law to live in San Francisco and not be pro-union. And if you're not smart enough to frame your answer from the way this question is posed and knowing where you are, then you probably should just get up and leave. So what I'll say is this. What I would pledge to do is to talk with the unions prior to there being an issue, so that we develop a relationship that enables us to function in a collaborative fashion based on mutual respect and desires for the same things.
So when I was a teacher, I was in the union, so I understand the power and the importance of that unions play in the community and the district. I pledge, if elected, to be working with the unions on a regular basis. I like that word partnership, I agree, and to meet on a regular basis and be available if there are issues. And I also commit to making sure that I have a full understanding of the issues from a union perspective, because I think many times we make decisions without really understanding the ins and outs of the issues. So that's my commitment to the union and the community.
I think unions are monumentally important. When I think of unions, I think of people like Dolores Huerta, like Philip Veracruz, like Larry Itliong, like Cesar Chavez. I think of people who made changes, not just locally, but in the world, and who were true leaders and had other leaders that were inspired after them change the lives of workers. I think of the underdog many times too. I think it's essential that district employees are represented by unions that are loud and that speak the truth that employees have at each site, wherever they work in the district. I think our union reps have a lot on their plates, and I think they do it great. Whenever there's a matter that requires their input, whether it is coming to our side or taking a message to the union meetings, they do a great job at communicating that. So I think that we need to support the union and support the input that we get from them and work collectively together.
Unions are critical to the overall success of our district. I think as a board member, working with unions, having clear, transparent communication between the union and the board, it can be the key to many successes within the district. Unions, ideally, at their best, are the voice of the workers, the voice of teachers, the voice of staff, and they need to be represented. Their voices need to be represented, and they need to be protected, and that is the role of the union, and I think there is nothing wrong with that. And I think that sometimes when people are less familiar with unions, they can be skeptical about unions. But again, that's about where information and transparent communication becomes a very key point.
All right, candidates, if you could please pass the mic down to us. We're going to go now to our second section of the night. this is going to be the rapid response. So the candidates don't get to speak on the questions. They only get to say yes or no. So the way that this section is going to work, we have 18 questions for you. We're going to ask the question. We're going to wait 10 seconds. And then we're going to ask answers, please. And then you're going to raise your answer. Could we have an example? Anthony, would you mind showing us yes or no? Thank you. Could you turn it around? Thank you. And then you're going to hold it up for us so the audience can see your answer. So don't just put it up and then down so people don't see it, all right? So please keep it up, and then we'll ask you the next question. So we have 18 questions, and we're going to take turns. And we have 15 minutes, so we're going to go through pretty quickly. First question, we're going to start easy, I hope. Do you believe all students, no matter their race, ethnicity, or background, deserve a quality, free education? Take a second to think. Answers, please. Thank you. Usually, obviously, I would give you a little more time to think, but this one's pretty easy. Go ahead, Trish.
A year ago, UTR, with a coalition of community partners and the current board, passed a sanctuary resolution. Do you agree with the sentiment of the policy to protect all students from outside forces and be a sanctuary district?
Well, maybe we might not need time after all. Thank you for your answer. Number 3, charter schools have been growing in West Contra Costa in the last few years. Would you lead an effort to create a statewide moratorium on charter schools until the law is written so that we eliminate negative economic impacts on school districts, as well as create more transparency? Answers, please. Thank you.
All right. Do you believe charter petitions should stay local and not be able to appeal to the county or the state, who usually rubber stamp applications?
Question number 5. Do you support Superintendent Duffy's and the board's 2022 district roadmap for our students, staff, and schools? Thank you.
Number 6, do you support all labor unions and employees in West Contra Costa, no matter who they endorse?
Thank you. Do you believe all staff deserve the right to organize and join a union, whether community or charter school, if they choose to?
Thank you. California is the 46th in the nation per pupil spending, yet we are the 5th biggest economy in the world. Do you believe the state of California funds school districts appropriately and adequately?
Thank you. Do you believe ICE should be allowed to come into our schools and take students if they choose to?
Thank you. Do you believe we should move to district elections instead of at-large elections like our current system?
Answers, please. Thank you. Do you think we should have campus safety officers in schools?
All right, thank you. Do you believe staff and students provide adequate input into our district LCAP plan?
Thank you. Do you believe the district works closely enough with community organizations in West County who are trying to support our students and staff?
Okay, thank you. Would you be in favor of supporting and organizing a parcel tax to increase funding for employee salaries and possible reduction of class sizes?
Answers, please. Thank you. The school district is facing hard budgetary decisions due to inherited deficit, negotiations, program priorities, and growing costs. The district passed $10 million in cuts last year, and this year we face over $11 million in cuts. As a board member, do you support Superintendent Duffy's plan to have a balanced budget and make the cuts necessary? Answers, please.
Are you in support of project labor agreements and prevailing wage for construction projects that are not done in the district and that are not done internally?
Answers, please. Thank you. Do you pledge not to take any corporate monetary contributions, including from PACs, with relation to CCSA, Chevron, or large corporations? Answers, please.
And the last question, will you support our efforts to secure funding for graduate tutors and school community outreach workers in the general fund, both of whom are expected to be cut from the LCAP next school year?
Answers, please. Thank you. For this last part, I apologize, we only have 10 minutes left. We're going to give you a minute each to close, and then we're going to say the last few words, and we're going to close the night. We're going to start with Ms. Calloway at the end.
First, I'd like to say thank you for your patience in my coughing throughout tonight. But I would be honored to serve on the board in the city that I grew up in the city that I still as a community worker work in the community that I still invest in my young people. I work with young people daily, and so I listen to them. And so listening to them and listening to their parents, I believe I have what it takes necessary to be your board member.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you and recommit, kind of renew our vows on what's important to us. You didn't know me as well 4 years ago, and you gave me a chance. You know me really well now, and you know I'm working hard to deliver for each one of us, for our students, for our schools, for our communities. Somebody who didn't know me very well, even if I don't get reelected, I feel privileged and I'm blessed and I'm a winner, because I got a text, an email from somebody, and he said, "We've had 4 years to watch her in action and see her evolve. Many of us didn't know her, so we didn't support her the first time. For 2018, I and many of my community colleagues encouraged her to run for re-election. We will support her candidacy. And in the style of Johnny Carson and David Letterman, I offer 10 reasons to vote for Val Cuevas. 1, she is a genuine good listener. It's hard for me to take compliments, thank you. She's proactive. 2, 3, she supports her opinions with facts and logic. 4, she's a strong leader. 5, I'm out of time, but she understands how to use the Brown Act to promote communication. If you want to know the others, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be your school board member, and I hope I have the chance to continue to be. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who came out this evening. Thank you for being such a great audience and listening to all of us. I joined this venture late in the game, but I'm really excited to be here and have this opportunity to share my beliefs with all of you. If given the opportunity and task to serve on the board, I will champion the success of our students, all of our students. I really want to be a part of the solution. I really want to be a part of making this district the greatest district it can be, to be on par with the best schools in the state and in our nation. We're in this increasingly global society. We need to prepare our students to be competitive on the global scale. So I want that for all of our students. I want it for my kids. I want it for your kids. I want it for all of us, and I think we can do it, but we need to do it together.
So I think that for this one I'm going to stand, because this is our actual equity statement, and it reads, "The belief that all students can achieve at high levels of proficiency and that the effects of institutionalized racism can be mitigated is central to how equity is viewed in West Contra Costa Unified School District." So I think equity has a lot of potential in this district, and I think that we have not reached a moment of equity in each classroom for every child. And I just want to have my closing statement be that we need to improve our educational services greatly. We need to find the intersectionalism that a lot of our kids have, our students of color specifically, and be the home district that they need us to be. We need to provide this equity that is lacking potentially in their community, in the home, and bring a space that's safe, bring a space that they can transform into who they want to be and achieve higher and have higher dreams in life.
So thank you again for hosting, to all of the unions and for everyone that was here participating and everyone that was clapping and waving. That was great. As a father of 2 lovely girls in the school system, in public schools, as an immigrant who came here not speaking any English, as a former teacher, and as a current education leader that works with districts across the country, I stand ready to serve and bring excellent practices to all of West Contra Costa schools. So I look forward to any and all of your support, and thank you.
I want to echo the thank you to those who have hosted this evening, but more importantly, thank you for all who are in the audience today. I know how hard it is to actually get somewhere in the evening, and your show of your support for this school district is evident by your presence here. I'm just a firm believer that we have to stop treating the symptoms and get to the core of the problems, and we address the symptoms without addressing the core, and therefore our problem solving has been well-intentioned but not sustainable nor durable. I pledge to bring coherence and viability to our district so that we turn around the current outcomes for students, particularly those African American, special ed, and Latino students.
I want to thank everybody too. I want to thank the unions for putting this together. This is a very unique forum that we've never had before in the years that I've been on the board. Certainly before the filing date, which was also an unusual choice. I want to thank everybody who came, and I particularly want to thank all of the candidates. I have learned a lot. I have learned 90-90-90. I have learned to go home and watch Nanook of the North. I have learned that we have many, many people who are very committed to our children in this school district and who love them very deeply. And I really think that that is the kind of energy we need to be able to move forward. I want our children to be able to continue the progress that they've made and double it and quadruple it into the future. We're on the right path. I really do believe in Mr. Duffy's pathway into the future, and I think that as long as we support him and work hard, we'll get there.
When we took our Future Teacher Club to one of the elementary schools, and one of the girls was assigned to a classroom of like kindergarten, and she opened the door, and she was going to step in, and they were all looking at her, and her face just lit up, and I knew she was hooked. She fell in love at that moment with kids, with teaching. She's hooked. And that's the way I feel about this district. When I got here, I fell in love, and I want what's best for our students. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming and being so patient. I want to tell you that like most everybody here, I want the best for our children. But I'm not going to say that regardless of what type of school they're in, because I think that public education matters. Public education matters more than corporate education. I just want to remind you of my slogan, which is written on my lawn signs, which I may see and hope to see in many of your houses. Let teachers teach. It's a cry for ownership, for teachers to retake the tools of our trade, educational objectives, content of courses, curricula. Those are our tools, and they have been taken away from us. And the way to solve the problems in our district, I believe, is to let teachers teach and let teachers own the curriculum. Thank you.
I know I may be young, but I know the issues. For the past 2.5 years, I've attended almost every single school board meeting. I've probably missed only 1 or 2. I've attended LCAPs, I've attended SSCs, I've even attended SSC meetings in other school districts just to see what they're doing over there that we could bring over here. I've attended public hearings, I know the issues. Aside from the incumbents, I'm probably one of the more well-informed people here. Now, I've named a few ideas, I've named a lot of ideas, I have a lot of ideas on my website, but none of these are original ideas. None of these came from here. They came from here, and that's because I listen. I listen to people and I hear what they have to say. So if you heard something that I said that you dislike, or if you heard something and you want to add more, please sit down with me. My website is anthonyegatto.com. schedule a meeting with me, let's sit down, let's have coffee. I want to hear what your ideas are because I believe that's what a representative should do. A representative should listen and then they should lead. So if there's one thing to remember about me, it's I mobilize, I organize, and I deliver. Thank you.
All right, could we please give a huge hand of applause to our candidates? They are now done with their first forum of, I'm sure, many. Before everybody in the audience leaves, I speak for all the unions in saying thank you for being here, thank you to the candidates. But before you walk outside, we left some feedback forms on the front table. Please make sure that you turn it in to us. Please turn it to the middle table right here. Justin, Emma, and Veronica, please raise your hand. Turn it to one of them. We're going to take that feedback and we're going to use it during our endorsement conversation. And your voice matters. So please fill those out. They're on the table if you do not have it. And if you need translation on the form, please come to me and I can help you. Thank you so much for being here, candidates. Thank you again, and have a good night.